Well, what's happening, everybody? Hope everybody's having a fantastic, I think it's Thursday, Friday Eve. Yeah, everybody loves that cliche. So hopefully we've got a little bit better connection going on this evening. I had a little bit of a problem with my Wi-Fi apparently, and it basically shut us down for the evening. So wanted to take another run at this. Wanted to take another stab at that TRX. I've actually had quite a few comments leading into this TRX version 2.0 chat. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this was primarily because Michael's going to say, let's see if this will work this time. T, you saying, fingers crossed on this one, bro? For sure. Hopefully it's going to work. Yeah, we had some technical difficulties last night. Let's just put it that way. Hopefully this is a little bit better. I think I got them fixed. Again, fingers crossed, knock on wood. So, Mark Coleon, what's up, brother? Got the arm flex, I like it. So here's the thing. First of all, you know, what's cool is that I got a little bit of feedback, though, from what little was able to be processed last night. And what's interesting is not only did it spur on some conversation in the comments, but it actually kind of spurred on some conversation with some friends of mine. And what's even cooler than that is, you know, kind of catching everybody's perspective on this truck. I've got my own unique take, so to speak, but there are folks that see that truck through a different set of lenses. As well they should. There's just different points of view. I mean, we're not all going to stand around the elephant and see the same view, right? So, getting to that point, I respect everybody's viewpoint, but if it doesn't agree with mine, it's just wrong. So that's all there is to it. No, I'm kidding, sort of. But you get the point. The idea that I had behind the TRX in the launch was that although I love the truck and I love the concept of the truck, really for me, well, I'll put it to you like this. First of all, from a marketing standpoint, there wasn't any real build-up to it. I mean, I wanted there to be something huge, massive, monstrous, like what they did with the Demon for the truck. Let me give you an example of why. The Demon, they did something so cool with the Demon in that they had this huge build-up leading into it. This is, in my opinion, a major fail on the part of Dodge, or I should say Ram in this case, because as some have pointed out, and I have to agree with the point, and again, I just didn't see it from this perspective, we're not talking about Dodge, all right? We're not talking about Hellcat. We're not talking about the performance car part of this or the hot rod family truckster part of this. I think of the Durango and the Jeep here. We're talking about Ram, which is a brand wholly separate from the other brands. And that means something. It means that they're going to try to take a different direction at it. So when I was looking at it, I may have had a little bit of, I'm not going to say a wrong impression because I'm going to carry with my thoughts on that. But I like where some of you guys were going. One of the points that I kind of rolled back on was, look, the TRX is pretty cool for Ram as a truck brand. It happens to be using a Hellcat engine, but aside from that, it's fairly well divorced from the rest of the brand clan, so to speak. I mean, when you're looking at a squad that is Challenger, Charger, Durango, the wide body variants, the Jeeps, and, well, now the truck, but at least you've got such a vast variety now of different vehicles. That's a street vehicle. Ram is going to be the off-road side. Okay, fine. But the point I was trying to make was that you've got a pretty cool direct line of sight competitor with the Raptor in the same way for off-road as the Ram Viper truck would have been a direct line of sight competitor to the Lightning at the time. So, hey Vince, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying, it's been a while since I've been in the chat. Every time I listen to the Mopar Professor, I think about voiding my Scat Pack warranty. Yeah, warranties don't last too long around here. Thank you very much for the contribution. Got the arm flex. I like it. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. And Eric saying, looks like the connection seems better tonight. But getting to it though, I can kind of see where that's coming from. And I like it. I like that point of view. And I think that that is a cool and right point of view to have. But for a guy like me, I need something a little bit better than the reveal that was just, I don't know, bestowed upon us. First of all, let's just take it at face value. Again, my big complaint was that airy, weird, like twilighty kind of music, Mr. Sandman, Bring Me a Dream thing, which was done by a female originally, duded up by some dude that still kind of said, didn't like it at all, man. I'm thinking, I want rock and roll. I want Enter the Sandman. Give me fuel, give me fire, all of that if you're going to go that route. If you're going to be going the route of that type of a theme, man, come up with some, again, you got to stick with the FCA Dodge Mopar branding of rock and roll. Even though it's Ram, it still needs to carry the brand theme. It needs to carry the basic ethos of what that brand is trying to drive forward. And so because of that, I was left really just limp-faced after it. I was just, what was that? I mean, I see the truck kind of doing some things in the dirt. And listen, if you live in an area where you can take advantage of a high horsepower off-road contraption like a Raptor or the TRX, then you'll be able to certainly take advantage of this thing. But for the majority of them, they're going to be basically on the highways all the time, and the only time they'll ever get dirty, I don't know, is if they're just not washed long enough. I mean, these things are not really going to be, I don't think anyway, as, I don't know, ever used to their capabilities. Let's just put it that way. In the same way that a lot of the Raptors aren't either. But let's get to something else about this. Something that, and I'll circle back around on, what I thought about. Well, let me just go ahead and talk about it now. What I was talking about yesterday before technology so rudely showed up and kicked us all square in the bowels. Ram, we're talking about what Ram has done and what Dodge has done over the years that the other brands haven't. And this is the key point here. I get the chasing around of the Raptor, kind of playing a little grab ass with it. Ooh, Raptor makes 450. Well, we're going to come out with 700. Okay, that's all fun and games until Ford decides that they're going to GT 500ize the Raptor, drop 750 horsepower. What? And then we get the red eye truck? Look, the truck's already $75,000. You're going to throw another probably 20 grand on top of that for the red eye variant once they ever come out with it. To me, it's like they didn't make it good enough right off the bat. Why the Hellcat engine when the red eye engine is sitting right there? And trust me, believe me when I tell you, it doesn't cost any more to build the red eye engine than it does a regular Hellcat engine. Not when you start looking at utilities of scale when you're talking about mass production. Trust me, I'm kind of in that business. And so I'm bewildered as to why they didn't do it unless it had a built-in upgrade basically for further down the path. Fair enough, fine. Good business if you can pull it, but it just leaves people like me looking at it going, wait a minute. No, that's kind of the shitty way to do it. It's a lot like how Porsche did with, what is it, the Cayman? I get the Porsche names all mixed up, but just a step down from the 911. You know it's really good, but they just could have done better. But they were maybe hitting a price point with that thing. In this case, I don't know. You're just kind of waiting for the second shoe to drop on that truck. But anyway, getting back to it. I get the time-honored tradition, I guess, if you want to call it that, even though the game was over in 2004 with the Lightnings, of Dodge chasing Ford around. But here's the problem. Look at it like this. Look at where Dodge came from when it comes to hot rod pickup trucks. And this is why, and also keep in mind just how much Dodge swings from the nuts of nostalgia. But let's get back to, and it was even in the reveal, little red truck, first factory built hot rod pickup, at least ultra marketed to the public. I mean, you had some in the mid to late 60s was Chevrolet, the C10s, the personal hot rod pickups, the big block C10s. You had those, but just talking about Dodge and the way that they did things, they found a loophole in the emissions laws that meant that trucks didn't have to have specific emissions provisions. And so they exploited that with Little Red Truck and the Warlock, which is just a black and gold Little Red truck. Pretty cool truck if you can find it. From there, you've got the Shelby Durangos, and then you had the Viper truck. This would have been the next in line. Oh, don't forget the Jeeps, by the way, the hot rod pickup truck Jeeps that nobody seems to remember. Those 4-liter trucks at one point in time were actually the fastest truck on the planet. So Dodge slash, well, Jeep, in that case, I think it was, no, it wasn't AMC. I think Dodge, anyway, it doesn't matter. They've got a reputation for building hot rod street pickup trucks. The reason why I wanted to see something like that is because instead of $75,000 for this Raptor killer, I would be more interested in seeing something like maybe $47,000, a little bit too low, maybe $52,000 for an outright SRT pickup truck. Something to go out there and just kick all kinds of ass on the drag strip, which is where Dodge seems to be doing all of its marketing. I mean, if the car isn't sliding around a corner, not in a drift of event, just, just in general, dangers of the night, right? They've got them, basically with the super stock, or sorry, I almost caught myself saying super sport. But you got the super stock, you've got the Demon, you've got the 1320, and the original still is the yardstick Hellcat sitting behind me. You've got the world's fastest SUV, drag strip. You got the world's fastest 3-row seating SUV. Durango, again, drag strip. They had the SRT thing strapped to a building doing a 4-wheel burnout. Which brings me to my next topic. Why in the hell are we even talking about another Hellcat-powered contraption when they can't find it in their day to put a 392 in the truck? I mean, to me, that's really where the smart money is, and that's where a $47,000 or a $43,000 hot rod SRT pickup with a 392 would be pretty awesome as well. At least give the NA guys something to work with, and oh yeah, by the way, it's a freaking truck, the easiest thing that that you can actually think of to put one of these engines in. I mean, it's a body on frame construction, for crying out loud. Anyway, you guys get my point on that. Again, I'm looking at the tradition here. I'm not looking at the trend. I'm looking at the tradition because, again, that is what we have been being sold by Mopar in general as it sits. Now, again, that's not the Ram brand, and I understand that. Ram doesn't do that. That's not Ram's thing, but it's still under the same umbrella, so I've got to consider it when I'm developing an opinion of this thing. I don't just look at anything and just go, oh, I love it, that's great, that's cool, but I'm looking at it from a different perspective. I'm looking at it as assets have been allocated for the development of this particular vehicle. Why? What is the market? What are they trying to say with this vehicle in terms of image for the company as a whole? Because even though Ram is a separate entity, you cannot divorce it from Dodge, FCA, and the like. It doesn't work like that. As much as some folks have tried to say it, it doesn't play out like that. About the only brand portion of that that's had some success has been Jeep. And really with that, only in the Wrangler. But we can talk about Jeep on another occasion. Let me get to you guys real quick. Enough of me blabbering on over here. T saying, oh, Donnie's checking in saying, what's going on, B? What's up, Donnie? T saying, personally, I love the TRX. I see so much content potential from it for any car YouTube channel that gets one and actually takes it off-road. Very good point. I can only tell you this. If it were in the budget, I would pick one up. Only for that reason. Plus, I can tune it, so I know what I can get out of it. I mean, that's always fun, right? I am curious, though. It's coming from the factory with a Dana 60. Stout rear end. I'm curious how the front portion of that suspension and drivetrain is going to hold up. Time will tell. Chase Carr saying they should have done an extreme off-road Rebel with the 6.4 years ago. Real talk on that. Eric Taylor saying, what up, B? What up, Eric? Ned checking in saying, hey, B, what's up, Ned? And again, Vince, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Really do. Goes to the new tires fund, as a matter of fact. Eric saying, connection seems to be better tonight. Thank goodness. Ned saying, got my manual 2020 Scat Pack Challenger. Oh, got him a Frostbite 2 weeks ago, and he's loving it. My man, that is my new almost favorite color, other than Redline Red. It's actually one of only two colors, Redline Red and Frostbite. It'll change colors based on the time of day. And it is, if you haven't seen Frostbite in person, find you a Dodge dealership and find something in that color. It is super pretty. So congratulations on that car, man. You're going to love it. Chase Carr saying, regardless of Ram being separate, Ram and GM should have capitalized on the off-road market years ago, and the Raptor has too big of a market share. Too little, too late. T's at Chase Carr saying, I hear you, but no way is it too late. This is Ram TRX is definitely going to steal a significant amount of Raptor customers away from Ford. And then T say, B, I don't think Ford has the stones to ditch the EcoBoost 6-cylinder for the GT500 engine. I just don't see it. The thing is that it's been talked about quite a bit. And the thing is that they can do it. It's in the stable. It's right there. And the development cost would be next to nothing, number one. And number two, it's already been certified. Unlike trying to develop an aluminum 426 in a car for these things, it's already just sitting there, ready to go. Same as the 6.4 for the Rebel in this case, which would have made more sense. Hold up. Why name it the Rebel if it's the same thing as my work truck? That's not rebellious. That's just a little bit of a facelift. If it's a Rebel, I need more power. 6.4 liter sounds just about right to me if you're going to put that kind of name on that kind of rig. All I'm saying, hi, FCA. Name's Brian Mason. Hopefully you've had a chance to view some of my videos and you can see how much of a passionate fan I am of the Mopar family. Look me up. I think I could do some work for you, do some good work for you, I should say, in your marketing and product development teams. I kid you not. I often wonder, what is somebody thinking when they're putting these things together? They need the help of a radiant enthusiast. Look me up. After saying, Ford Insider told the drive that 2021 Raptor will have a GT500 engine. Hopefully you're doing well, B. Mace. What's up, man? Oh, man, that's good stuff. No, doing good. Thank you, man. T said it literally took Ford 6 years to pull the trigger and bring us a 2020 GT500 to finally answer the Hellcat. Plus, they're focusing their energy on becoming a serious contender in the EV segment. True that. And they are. And, you know, so is FCA in parts of their branding. But I will say this, you know, we'll see where they end up. But yes, the Raptor has had a very long run at it leading into this. It's a little, I wouldn't say it's a little too little. This is their entry to this foray, so to speak. Let's see where they end up. I mean, I'm interested to see where the market takes that vehicle. I'm pleasantly surprised to see it at 75,000. I mean, should I be surprised to see it that low? Because half of me thinks that I'm shocked that they didn't come in at 95,000. I mean, that almost seems like the number here lately. So anyway, curious as to how they're coming in with pricing on that. CJ saying, hey, B. Mason, what's up, brother? How's it going? It's going good. T saying they're not going to pivot and develop a GT500 powered truck next year to answer the TRX. Probably not that soon, but we'll see. We'll see if they even have to. That's the other thing. I mean, they may just be blowing smoke, but again, I have heard of it. And, you know, typically by the time, you know, I don't pay a ton of attention to that stuff, but, you know, and it could be a little bit of blustering as well because the TRX was being released. Who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me. Ford's done some pretty nutty things over the years. Let's see if that one would stick. August is checking in. What is happening, B? Got the arm flex. I like it. CJ saying a 392 powered Hemi 1500 would be awesome. Yep. Well, then you say I still prefer the F-150 with a 5-liter Coyote. Well, there's no way you can prefer it. It just exists where the 392 doesn't. And that should tell you something. By the way, hey, all joking aside, F-150 Coyote on 150 shot or F-150 Coyote with a blower is not to be messed with. Those things will freaking get up and scream out of your life. Kobe's checking in with the Arm Flex. I like it. Shawnee's saying, Ned, I have a Barton shifter for sale. Oh, yeah. Awesome shifter, by the way. Y'all get a hold of each other. You're going to love that shifter. Cool Pizzo saying, you kind of look like Vin Diesel. I know I don't sound like him. Dude's got an awesome set of pipes, man. Awesome voice on that guy. From what I hear, a pretty cool guy, too. CJ's saying a YouTube channel, Dennis Collins, has a video of a Jeep Grand Wagoneer, and they did a Hellcat swap in it, and it's now fast as hell. So, yeah, I've seen that. In fact, that's been in a write-up, I think, in a couple of places. But, yeah, Dennis Collins of Gas Monkey fame. Cody's saying they could have always put the SRT engine in the Rebel or the TRX. Absolutely. They still had, well, they kind of had that. That engine, you know, packaging wouldn't allow it, I don't think, today. Plus, it's not near as good as... Hey, Jermaine, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Thank you for the contribution to the cause. Just says B. Well, appreciate that, my man. Thank you very much for that. Let's see. Oh, Ned's hanging out with Sean. Let's see. Lee saying FCA and bad marketing decisions go hand in hand. Well, the thing is that FCA does a great job with marketing. It's just that from time to time, when they get it wrong, this is kind of, it walks in lockstep with a continuity, a failure of continuity. This is, in other words, if you're ever watching a movie and you see somebody is holding a coffee cup and it's green, and then in the next scene they're holding a coffee cup and it's brown, and then in the next scene their coffee cup and it's a failure. It's a breakdown of continuity. That to me is how some of this marketing is looking. I mean, I need to see this family acting a fool all the time. I kind of need their marketing to follow and this is what I would offer up. You need to have that marketing follow the reality TV recipe for garnering and capturing and keeping attention. Rowdy, loud, rambunctious, tits hanging out, a bunch of people doing dumb shit. That is what basically, I don't know, passes for entertainment today, right? So keep that theme going. God, cannot get past the song, the music, and that reveal. My God, what was they thinking? What is going through your head? Mr. Sandman, and it's just whiny, bitchy, wussy ass punks. I mean, this is the kid that you slap walking into class. I mean, because you can't. The kid's not going to do anything. It's supposed to be the freaking, you know, you got to eat everything. That's supposed to be what I'm looking at. That's supposed to be what's going down, son. The nastiest, biggest jaws and eating to scare the... That's what the TRX is supposed to be. You don't have some airy, fluffy, bitchy, wussy, vegan little pussy-ass song as its intro. I mean, what the flying shit were they thinking? I want a DMX. That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted, man. How badass would that have been? I mean, shit, something badass. But nothing like that. That was god-awful, terrible sadness. I mean, I wanted to cry. I'm like, oh my God, somebody hacked into this reveal and put in that song. But instead, that wasn't what it is. And we're looking at this, it's just a breakdown of marketing, and I cannot stand that because we've been getting rock and roll and doing wheelies on stage and burnouts and shit sliding all around, doing donuts on a crane and cars weaving in and out, doing stuff, and the very first ever registered 1080 car on a drag radial, the very first, 1170 from the factory in a car in the 1320. All of this kind of stuff going down. Super stock runs 1050s. And it's always, it's something rocking out, man. Not what we just got fed. And that was the thing that I couldn't get past it. And yeah, I know, you guys know me from other videos that I am a stickler for failures in marketing. Number one big one that jumped off the page for me was the Hellefant release when they stamped out the Hellcat paw print. It still pisses me to this day. So in the second one, by the way, was the super stock. You'll see the one in the picture where they say the only muscle car that comes from the factory with drag radials. But the 1320 comes from the factory with drag radials, and it's still being made. And by the way, it is going to be available for 2021. So, whoops. Yeah, I saved that picture as a reminder. And now this. It's a breakdown in the way that as a Mopar fan, I can't let it slide. And I get it. It's like, oh my God, here comes the super fan. He's going to bitch about everything. No, they painted the calipers a color that he's going to say didn't relate to anything from 67. No, man, I ain't doing that. But I think that you can understand that coming from a modern point of view, you have to have that continuity to carry the brand moving forward. Why? Because that's the tradition you've been riding on for the last since 2008. And let me tell you all something else. Back in the day when you had the SCAT packages, the SCAT pack, so to speak, Rapid Transit System, RTS, all of that, you could buy a car and now you're a member of the RTS, you're a member of the SCAT pack, and it was all the right marketing and everything kind of gelled together. Every critter that they marketed with had slicks on it. Hell, Ford got into the game with the Cobra with the slicks. Everything kind of just gelled in with that. Some people even tried to take pieces of it because it was that good. But everything was cohesive. Plymouth, Dodge, everybody had a piece of this. And it's not really the same now. And it's starting to lose a little bit of that cohesion. And anytime you separate something like the Ram brand from the rest of the clan and from the rest of the squad, from the rest of the crew that got you where you are today. If it wasn't for the ass kicking that this little contraption right here started laying on suckers back in December of 2014, this thing, you got to remember, it's an early release, 2015. She was born in November of 14. If it weren't for the absolute straight up mauling that these things did back in the day, if you want to call 5 years ago, 6 years ago, back in the day, we wouldn't even have the TRX today. So yeah, you're building upon the legacy of the Dodge brand, of now the Ram brand, but of the Jeep brand. You're building upon that legacy with this truck. You have to market it the right way. It's got to be exciting. It has to carry the hype that these cars have been shouldering for so long. Anyway, let me get back to you guys. Ned's asking, how much though? 75 grand. Let's see. Oh, Shawnee is hanging out. Let's see. Cody's saying, what I don't understand is why did they name their EV a Mustang? Why would it have been better to have a different name? The reason why Ford went with Mustang was just to, I hate to say it, but capitalize on the name of Mustang. That's the only reason why they did it. Thanks again, Jermaine. I appreciate that, buddy. Let's see. Oh, CJ's saying in Missouri, if you buy a new car, you have to pay state tax, and I'm sure other states, yeah, you just pay income tax. Let's see. Ryan Zaplak's checking in, saying, my brother, show is going well, as always. Miss you, buddy. Much love, my man. Give me a shout, brother. Absolutely. Got a lot of projects in the works right now. One of them is one you will find very familiar. Black Car is back, baby. So I'm going to be working on that actually this weekend. Jebediah is checking in. But yeah, holler at me, brother. Jebediah is checking in saying, how's it going, Mason? I'm going to, got the fist pump. I like it. Say I'm going to build my own SRT Ram since FCA won't. Do you suggest I go with Whipple or an E-Force? Go with the E-Force for your Ram, brother. Good kit, real good kit. Ned Franklin saying, interesting, I need to recover from the down payment or I'd jump on it. No kidding. Right there with you on that one. Cody saying, F-150 Coyote twin turbski is just as scary as a supercharged Coyote. Yeah, it is. I would say it's significantly more scary if it's done right. Turbocharged, y'all know me and turbos, baby. Turbos are the cheat code. Edward Sheffer saying, thoughts on a 16 Charger Scat. Think I'm trading my 13 SRT8 6-speed Challenger for one tomorrow. The one that broke a valve spring. Yeah, I remember that one, buddy. Tune issues, shifting issues, now valve seal issues. You're gonna love it. 16 Scat. I mean, it's the redesign on the interior. I think you're gonna like that. Very ergonomically correct. I mean, that thing is set up nice, very comfortable car. I think you're gonna like it. I'd say if you've got an opportunity on one, jump on it. Ned's check it out. Say he's got to hit the bricks early. Great show. Y'all have a go, man. Good night, Jacksonville. CJ saying, I wish Mopar would put forged internals in the 392 so that way it can use twin turbos. Man, see, that's where we're already looking at it wrong, brother. First of all, the 392 crank is forged. There is no limit to the power that thing can take, seemingly. Rods are fine. It's the pistons that you got to look out for, and really, it's the ring gap. See, here's the thing. This is where guys get it wrong. And so I'll go ahead and I'm going to go off on a tangent here. The issue with 392s and boost is ring gap. The ring land is high on the piston, which is good for efficiency, but it also doesn't give that ring land any chance to dissipate any heat or the ring or anything for that matter. Anyway, long story short, if it's high up there, it means that ring land, the top of the piston, is just, if that ring pops, if it touches and it starts to fold over, there's not enough mass there to just hold the top of the piston on without it just popping the corner out. But here's the thing, you open up the ring gap and you open up the possibilities for your stock short block. The problem is nobody wants to put in the work to tear down a stock engine to open up the ring gap. And you go, well, what does that mean? You have to do that on LSs? Don't do it on an LS and see what happens. If you're running a cast iron block, something that's going to be taking in a lot of heat, and retaining a lot of heat, that can be a bit of a problem, and some of the 4.8s and 5.3s have a nasty habit of popping ring lands if you don't do the freaking work to get your ring gap right. But it can happen with any of them, and it happens in high load, high horsepower conditions. Some folks can get away with it, some don't. That's kind of how it works with the Hemis. It's just that it works a little bit less because of the reasons I was just talking about. I think the ring gap, stock ring gap is tight on those engines too. It's something like 18 thousandths. It's not even 20 thousandths. I think this one's 21 thousandths or 24 thousandths. I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, these things stock short block, not much different than the 392 to be honest with you. Aside from stroke and rod length, and of course the piston's a little bit different because it's a lower compression, but I mean, 1,000 horsepower, 1,100, I mean, it's not a problem with these things. So, again, don't get too ahead of yourself. A lot of it has to do with the fact that guys just are not going to put in the work, and the engine is designed to be an NA engine. That's one of the reasons why, even though it's hardly much larger than a 6.2 liter GM engine, it's putting out a significant amount more power. So just think about that coming into that conversation. Mark is saying, can't wait to get my RT next year so I can bombard the Mopar professor himself with questions. I love it, man. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully I'm helping. Concha's asking if I watch Alejandro Flores. You guys act very similar. I'm aware of him. I know of him in the Mustang community, and I've never met him, but I hear that all the time. So, Alejandro, cheers. Go tear up some GMs for me. Team saying, B, I truly wish I could get Ralph Gills and the other higher ups at FCA SRT to admit they actually watch your channel and for them to bring you in-house. That would be epic, man. I'm easy to find. Let's see, but I appreciate that, man. Thank you. But yeah, I would agree with that. I would love to be on board because I've got some ideas. Hilton Mode saying, I just bought a Rebel 19 too. Very nice, cool looking truck. Joe and I saying Rough Riders would have been dope for reals though, right? I mean, not that thing that they put out there. That was terrible. CJ Coleman's asking, have you heard any songs from Pink Floyd before? Yeah, I have. You can't live this long and not have heard of Pink Floyd. Hilton Mode saying TRX is gonna TRX gonna give it to you. Hell yeah, it is. Anything would have. I mean, dude, could you imagine how epically badass that would have been, dude? Dude, tell me, man. Tell me how awesome that would have been. T saying, Concha 04, the difference in B-Mace is a pure gearhead for all performance cars, and Alejandro is purely a Ford fanatic. He does good with Fords for sure. But yeah, he pretty much, he sticks with his Fords. CJ saying he thought some Led Zeppelin songs would have been good. You know what? May have been, but I want something that's just, yes! I want something coming at you, man. I don't want any, I want literally in your face. I want that. Come on, let's bring it. Please bring it. I'm begging you to bring it. Catch these hands, son. That's what I want to check out. That's the kind of, oh man, but no. Mr. Sandman, bring me a dream. Like, get out and work, son. Put your freaking boots on. Learn how to weld. Fall down. Bite a rock. Do something. Weak ass. I just can't stand it. God. Failure in marketing, man. I guess Lars wanted too much for Enter Sandman, and that was a last minute replacement. Oh, hang on a second. Jermaine, thank you very much. I appreciate that. White Knuckle Artisan too, man. Thank you so much. He's asking, is there a power, Jermaine got in first, is there a power difference between MDS and non-MDS cams? Yes, there is. MDS versus non-MDS, he's talking about multi-displacement cams, basically. There's some that will say yes. I haven't honestly seen one, but I can tell you that when I'm talking about power differences, what I'm thinking of is power potential differences. You've got heavier lifters with the MDS system, the MDS cam, the lifters themselves are heavier. That means that you're going to potentially run into valve control issues earlier with those cams, so you can't stretch them out. Easy fix to that is just put a different cam in there and throw Hellcat lifters in the thing and you'll be in good shape. So on the surface, no, but the potential, you know, if you're trying to do something with the car, if you're trying to maybe stretch out RPM a little bit, sometimes you'll see the non-MDS do a little bit better on the big end, but a lot of that has to do with valve control issues more than anything else. But thank you very much. I appreciate the contribution, my friend. And then White Knuckle checking in. Man, thank you very much for that contribution. Saying, I agree, Bri, they should have went and made a drag truck instead of Baja style. Too late to game. Would have done much better marketing towards an SRT truck than an off-road style party on, my man. I dig it, man. Thank you very much for that. So here's the other thing. Like, I would have been also kind of cool with the hybrid idea. Now, all right, y'all, just walk with me on this for a second. Think trophy truck here. Think lots of suspension, two-wheel drive, electronic locker, Hellcat engine setup. That would have been sick. Something a little bit different, something a little bit unorthodox, something that would kind of fly in the face of convention and just be rowdy as all hell. That would have been kind of cool too. Like pre-runner, desert runner style truck. Look, I get the idea of the four-wheel drive and I get the idea of all of that. Look, that's all fine and good. But, I mean, could you imagine you know, a trailing arm suspension setup with a Dana 60, rocking a red eye engine with a little bit longer upper and lower A-arm type two-wheel drive suspension, maybe something along those lines. That would have been kind of nutty too. But again, for me, I'm more of a street guy, and I'm also more of a Mopar guy, coming from the fact that they had five really, if you count the Jeep, Comanche little hot rod pickups. You know, you had the Shelby Dakota, which was kick-ass. Neat truck, by the way. You had, well, obviously the Little Red Express, the Warlock, the Viper truck, the Comanche with the 4-liter, which was a badass in and of itself. All of those trucks that came before were all street trucks. And so to fall in lockstep with the tradition, and again, yeah, I'm going to keep riding that tradition thing because that's what FCA drives down our throats. And let's not forget, they don't just stop with Dodge, it's also with Fiat. Fiat's the same way. Anything that Peugeot comes out with, it's going to fall in lockstep with that old, back in the day, really cool type of racing that they used to do back then. That's going to be part of the marketing message that they're going to send, is that Maserati, all of these platforms are old school racing pedigree brands. So when we're talking about Ram, there's a built-in racing pedigree already embedded. You've got Little Red Express, Warlock, okay, you already know where I'm going with this. The racing heritage is already there. The street cred, you're walking into the conversation with street cred. Shit, you're walking into the conversation with Carroll Shelby's name backing you up. Son, do you not know what kind of benefit that has? There's guys that still remember that. And by the way, how do you not capitalize on that? Okay, maybe if you're not putting the name on it, but just Dodge, Ram in this case, FCA, whatever, remember where you came from. Remember the chops that you've got coming into this freaking camp, okay? And if you think of it from that perspective and pull from that legacy and pull from that heritage, then you can put something on the road that really works people up. And that's what I was hoping to see. Could you imagine new for 2021 Warlock? And it is a black with gold trim, dropped Hellcat engine, red eye engine, whatever, it doesn't matter. Dana 60 out back, suspension mods, little bit of lightweight components here and there. Holy shit, that would have been sick to death, right? I mean, how do you not have that as part of the freaking crew? I mean, you've got yourself a Scat Pack. Now you've got yourself variety. And you can start touting that and start drifting that thing around whatnots and what have yous. That's where I'm coming from with this. That's why I'm getting so excited. But instead, you're chasing the Raptor, which, yeah, in some areas, I get it. The Raptor plays well. But to be honest, for the vast majority of enthusiasts, you know, trucks don't see that. Well, I don't know. I don't want to speak too far out of turn for some of you guys that actually enjoy your stuff off-roading, because damn it, part of me really likes that too. It's just, I don't like seeing Ram playing grab ass with the likes of the Raptor when there is this open field sitting right next to you ready to embrace you. And by the way, one of y'all had sent me this thing that said something to the effect of, well, then there's this. It was somebody else going back and forth with, then there's this. And the inaugural edition TRXs are all sold out, all 72 of them or whatever it was. 702 rather. Okay. $90,000. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute. $90K and they're sold out. Well, that's great. Most of these first-run vehicles sell out like that. That's kind of what they do. Anybody remember the 2015 Mustang, by the way? Yeah. But we'll see where the market takes this. In the meantime, I guess we'll all have to make our own Warlocks and Little Red Expresses, which isn't too difficult to do. I mean, you've got at least the 5.7 to play with. And, you know, there's plenty of upshot to that. But again, I don't want to get too off topic. I think that there's plenty of market to go around. There's obviously plenty of Hellcat engines to go around. I think it's time to bring back the Warlock to go along with your Red Eye or your Demon. I mean, even the names make sense. I mean, are you not? I'm a freaking wealth of information here, man. I'm just out of everywhere. I got freaking good ideas ejaculating out of every orifice. Warlock, Red Eye, Demon, Mean, Hellcat, you know, all, you know, magical, mystical, scary names, man. You can't, it's like a freaking Halloween, man. How do you not get that? How do you not understand that? How do you not grasp onto that, FCA? It literally sells itself, it spells itself out. Missing the boat, man. Anyway, getting back to it. I don't want to miss anybody. Let's see. Oh, Mimi's asking thoughts on the Carlisle Demon Killer Springs. Do they change or lower the car? Looking to put a set on his wide body Scat. I think they raise it up a little bit and it's a softer spring. It will help it transfer weight, but just be on the lookout because it will bring it up slightly. Nathan saying, they're good springs, so they work great. Nathan saying, thanks for the info as always. Talked me into keeping the 2020 Scat over getting the Hellcat, man. I'm telling you, you'll have a lot of fun either way, but I love the Scats. I so love them, so I'll tell you what, a little homework for you. Check out an old video that I did. It's basically 392, does it live up to the legend? It's something like that. Check out that video. I think you'll earn and pick up a new appreciation for that 392 that you've got. Keep in mind, I've gone low 11s with a 392 with a stock cam in an SRT full weight. So stock cam, stock headers for that matter. So yeah, there's a lot left kind of hanging out in that car. Trust me on that. Ernesto's saying, what up, B? Got the horns, I like it. Say, I just won a 5th gen single cab Ram RT with a 6.2 supercharged would be awesome, or at least a 6.4 for sure. That'd be sweet. A lot of us are wishing for that. CJ's asking, so what are the plans for the Fox Body Mustang? Are we planning on doing a Coyote swap in it? No, we are not. Oh, and then he's saying, then there's also a video of a twin turbo Tundra. Don't sleep on the Tundras, guys. So, God, this is going back at least 4 or 5 years. TRD supercharger on a Tundra 5.7. Keep in mind, the bottom end of the Toyotas is built like it's supposed to be powering a freaking tank. I think it was 550 or 575 horsepower, and it was a factory available installed option. I saw one of those trucks on the street. It was white on a drag pack lowered, kind of a bigger tire in the back. That thing looked nasty. I didn't see it run or do anything cool, but I'll tell you, it looked like it meant business. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, those trucks were rated at 550 or 575. Cody's saying, what is your opinion on the Kenny Bell supercharger kit? Was thinking about it for my Durango once I catch up with the maintenance. It's good. I mean, the Kenny Bell it's okay. I mean, Kenny Bell's not as efficient as a Whipple or the Maggie, but they work great. They sound amazing. So, I mean, if you want the theater to go along with the power, Kenny Bell's the way to go. If it's mine, I would probably be looking at the E-Force kit first, Whipple kit first, and then the Kenny Bell second. You know, those two, the Whipple and the E-Force be kind of on the same plane. Maybe with the E-Force coming in a little bit ahead just because it's a real clean, real complete kit. CJ's saying there's plenty of blown Coyote F-150s going out there and embarrassing Hellcats like nothing. Well, they're not embarrassing them like nothing, but they are out there running really strong. And it's nothing to see one of them, though, run 9-second quarter mile times. So in that respect, yeah, I mean, they're highly modified vehicles, and they do what highly modified vehicles do best, which is haul some ass. But, you know, yeah, there's not only those out there, there's supercharged Rams. Shit, there's some NA Rams that are hurting some people's feelings right now. A lot of NA LS powered stuff that's real fast. Of course, turbo LS, and you know, you're just a turn of a screw in terms of running, you know, 1050 to 950 with some of those. So yeah, trust me, I know all about that living down here. Let's see, Funny saying, I drive a 2017 Challenger RT. Which air intake system would you recommend? Thank you. 2017 Challenger RT. Hellcat lower is the way I would go. Hellcat lower with the snorkel and a Hellcat filter. Cannot go wrong with that. Let's see. And Jermaine and White Knuckle Man, thank y'all again. I really appreciate that, guys. I truly do. Lightning Blue saying, I agree. You and Alejandro, we're both just old school guys, man. That's what we do. We've been racing, driving, either driving our own stuff or driving other folks' stuff for a long, long time. So, yeah. Let's see, Mark saying, I generally save your streams to a playlist to reference mods and must-knows pertaining to Mopar. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I have fun on these things, too, usually, when I've got a good, you know, connection going. I do apologize for last night, guys. I really do. Hopefully we got that fixed. Cody saying, if B was part of the FCA SRT team, SRT4 would be a thing again. You're damn right it would. I would figure out a way to get some type of pissed off little 4-cylinder turbo thing working one way or another. And by the way, speaking of which, I'd be driving hella hard to get some type of a Ram Charger back into the lineup as well. Let's see. CJ saying MagnaFlow, an exhaust system for the Charger and Challenger is called the X Mod. That's right. That's the one that Racer X has got working on his stuff. Check it out, by the way. Sounds good. Cubby's asking, Hellcat wide body or standard body? If you have to pick all over again, your thoughts? I would still go with the standard body. But to be honest, it would depend on what I'm doing with the car. If this is just something for the street and I'm never going to take it to the drag strip and I'm doing this for looks and it's going to be a platform for me to basically put something together that's aesthetically looks good, that handles well, and is just basically more of a street bruiser, I'd probably maybe go with a wide body then in the Challenger. If you're asking me about a Charger, well, wide body is what I would obviously have to get. But I don't know. I like the narrow body. I like the way the narrow body looks on a drag pack. The only thing I don't like about narrow body is just trying to finagle the right size tires in on the rears. But you know, I kind of nailed it with this look. So still thinking about going with a set of Demon Reps as opposed to the Slingshots, mainly because the Slingshots are a freaking nightmare to keep clean. And I've got the Power Stop pads on this thing in front. And even then, it's a pain in the ass. A set of Demons would just simply make my life easier because they're easier to clean. So we'll see if I end up going that route. Edward's asking, Walk by Pantera would have been more appropriate song. Dude, good call. Yeah, dude, excellent pick. Headhunter would even be a better one. Old school, techno, industrial. That'd be a front 242 song would have been badass for that too. So good call on that. Hilton Mode saying your favorite headers on a 5.7 Ram. The Cooks, long tubes, hate to say it, but that's kind of the way you almost want to go. The shorties are good, but here's the thing, the Rams, the only problem is you have to remember that any of the long tubes, you're going to be, you cannot just put long tubes on the truck without a tune. I know there's some guys that'll try to get away with them on the cars. The thing is that the trucks already suffer from so much false knock. It's like the knock sensor sensitivity, it's not set lower, they just go nuts for some reason. especially with headers. You've got to really do some massaging on that tune to keep that thing from going into false knock. In fact, people say, well, how much false knock is it? My old work truck, just driving down the road, just driving, cruise control on, flat land, no headwind, would pull 3 degrees of timing seemingly for no reason. It would just, they'd pull 3 degrees of timing. So everything would be fine, and then out of nowhere, it would just check in. Oh, and fuel quality was good too. It would just check in with a bunch of knock sensor voltage. So anyway, you got to cut a ton of that stuff out and stay within known values and parameters for your fueling and timing. Destroyer 1320 said, I'd rather a twin turbo, a 5.7 Ram for less money. Just got a big single turbo. It'd be a lot better off and less money than that. Let's see. Oh, Cody's saying, speaking of Hellcat, there's a video about Hellcat swap Miata. Yes, there is. California Republic saying, calm down, slaphead. That's me, man. What can I say? I don't do calm down very well. Sam Graham saying, yo, B Mason, what up, yo? What's up, Sam in the house? CJ saying, well, B Mason, you have a wonderful evening, brother. You do the same. CJ, thanks for checking in, bud. Sam's asking, what do you think of an old TRX 4 Dakota or 2500 diesel? Dude, 2500 diesel would be my thing. I would have to, yeah, I don't know. I've got a thing now. I really want to do a diesel build. I don't know if I'll ever have the time or the funds to get to that, but not to mention it's kind of been overdone, but I really do like the diesels, and I love 3/4 ton trucks. So, he said the X mod costs $3,000 for the 18 to 20 Mustang GTs. How much do you think it'll cost for Mopar? $3,000 for sure. Yeah, it will for sure be $3,000 at least. Oh, Ken, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ken797 didn't have a question to come with it, but checking in at $4.99 for the cause, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate it. Funny Dwarf 2 saying, Dwarf on golf, man. If you don't remember that from back in the day. But Funny Dwarf saying, I greatly appreciate the information. Love your videos. Thank you very much, man. I appreciate it. Got the thumbs up. Cody's asking, can you use a canned tune to tune long tube, or to basically work long tube headers? That's one of the few things you can at least trust that tune to do, is get your transfer function correct for the long tubes. And what that means is that the computer literally knows when cylinder 4 fires, when that pulse is going to hit the O2 sensor. It's called your transfer function. And if it's not right, then you can get some kind of squirrely readings. It'll be looking for a pulse and it won't be there, or pulse will get there when it's not looking for it. So, yeah, get the transfer function, it'll be fine. The only thing though is that I don't like canned tunes because they have a tendency to be one of two things: either really soft on timing with absolutely no provision for torque management, which isn't good, or they're overly aggressive and they don't take into account fuel quality issues like 91 octane versus 93, or summer blend versus winter blend. And so I've run into problems with some canned. This is going back a little bit too, so they probably have gotten a little bit better, but a tip-in throttle, basically low speed spark knock. That's kind of the killer for engines. People think that it's wide open throttle and boom. Yeah, sort of, but another big reason why engines die is on tip-in. That initial load hit at low engine speed but very high cylinder pressure conditions. That's actually what creates the most heat, and that can burn these things up pretty quick. So anyway, Kobe's asking, have you ran a red eye in your Hellcat and how'd it do? Yeah, I've run quite a few red eyes with this car. Go back, look at one of Racer X's earlier videos. You'll see me and multiple Mopars racing. His 309 red eye full weight against Revlon stock tune 309 gear. Maybe it was. I can't remember if it had 309 gear then or not. And that's a good race, but I did get the jump on him, but we were running identical times. But no, I've raced some modified red eyes with Revlon, not overly modified, mainly tuned, bolt-ons, things like that. 309 gear cars, both on drag packs. I'm a couple of tenths quicker, so this is kind of where the car falls in line. So you know, red eye. The difference between driving a red eye and a Hellcat is the difference between driving a 440 Roadrunner, and this is kind of like, it's kind of the difference between driving a 440 and maybe a 383 Roadrunner. But that's kind of a bad analogy. So let me reel this thing back in before this fish gets off the hook. The red eyes have got a lot of initial hit. They've got a lot of torque down low compared to the Hellcat. Just the way that the car feels, it feels beefier down low. But if it's starting up here and the Hellcat is, say, here in terms of just feel, you know, taking off, the red eye seems to drop more dramatically. And a lot of that has to do with a lot of the nannies that are built into the tune. Thermal nannies, not to mention timing values are not near the same from a red eye stock tune versus the Hellcat stock tune. So you can't, it's almost kind of hard to compare the two, even though they're more or less the same thing. The larger supercharger develops more power down low, but it's also generating more heat up top, which is a problem. It's really a problem when you start getting into the tuning, because you'll actually run into thermal nannies kicking in. I've run into that with quite a few the red eyes that I've driven for guys, or kind of were handed the keys. Hey, something's really not right with this car. It's because it worked great on the dyno, but when it's under the load for the amount of time on the quarter mile, which, you know, 10 seconds is kind of a long time if you think about it. But they'll hit a thermal at about the 1,200 foot mark. You'll feel the car pull, and just nose over. The first time that ever happened was with the Demon, and I thought that I blew it up. I mean, I was going, well, you know, popped another one. But it wasn't that. I mean, I was data logging the car. I was going, everything's cool here, but it would just nose over. And this is after it had the upper and lower pulley, running on Q16, the whole bit. I knew that there was nothing damaged with the car. So I was going, well, at least I knew once I got off the track. And it was on its way to like a 970 pass. It was worst conditions, like in middle of July. Check data log, and you could see the throttle source just went thermal. And I went, oh crap. So we had to go chasing this thermal issue. And that was early on with the Demon tuning. So we got that squared away. But it just goes to show you that larger supercharger, even though it's bigger, doesn't necessarily make it better. In fact, it's less efficient once you start really turning up the wick. And so you know, it's not uncommon for stock supercharged Hellcats to run easy mid-nines, like super easy mid-nines, upper lower on E85. And the red eye is just kind of right there with it-ish. I mean, you would expect it to just be, you know, at least a couple of car lengths ahead of it, and that's really not how it plays out. So anyway, but the driving impression between the two, that's kind of what you get. I mean, the red eye will feel torquier down low, and then it kind of fades off up top. Really good for the 8th mile, and a little bit lackluster for the quarter mile, in my opinion. Let's see. Ace checking in saying, hello, sir, is Michelin Pilot Sport 4s, 4S good for the Hellcat? Sure. Any Pilot Sports are going to be good. They're not going to be like drag radials, but they're good tires all the way around. Kin7, totally agree with you on the narrow body Challenger. Van Halen with David Lee Roth, except for Driver Down album. Oh, that would have been good. Yeah, no kidding. A little I Can't Drive 55 would have been sweet. You know, Sammy Hagar too, mix it in there. God, there'd be so many awesome just sound bites, sound clips that would have been just awesome. I mean, AC/DC would have been kick-ass. I mean, what? Rob Zombie didn't want any part of that. I mean, dude, there's so many directions you could have taken it. God, I just didn't. Motorhead, Lemmy, how could I forget? Dude. Anyway, sorry. Let's see. Ace Chicken, do your, I think we missed something on there. Sam Grove saying the basic diesel build is injectors and built auto trans. Turbo is not necessary if you don't care about smoke. True that. Ed's checking in saying this Charger Scat I'm hoping to get in the morning already have long tubes and a K&N. Is it possible to have long tubes without a tune? Technically it's possible. Every 392 I've seen with them had a lean condition until tune. It can have a lean condition before the tune, and that will be down low typically. The lower RPM, you can have a bit of a lean condition with them because that's actually where there's some scavenging. Up top, there's just not enough time, like tick-tock time, for you to be able to scavenge because there's just not as much overlay. The thing's got a 120 degree lobe separation angle with only like 218 degrees of intake duration. There's not a lot going on with that cam. Although it's got a lot of lift, it's exaggerated, but still. But yeah, get a tune on that thing. Verify the tune for sure. Let's see. MG42 is saying the TRX is made to outdo anything off-road. It's just not about power. The frame and suspension are much stronger than the Soccer Mom Ford. Yeah, maybe, and that's good. it needs to be because it's got, a Hellcat power plant to contend with. And, that ain't necessarily light, especially if you're going to be sending this thing through the air. I do want to say, though, that as good as the TRX is at its job, I'm afraid that, and again, I'm in love with the idea of that truck, but I just will never find myself in love with that truck because I'm just seeing it from a little bit different point of view. I'm seeing the elephant, so to speak, from a little bit different point of view, if you know what I mean. Cody's checking in saying, been debating long tubes or short tubes, like having top end, but also like being pinned in my seat. I've also heard that Diablo Predator 2 is a good can tune, so that's also a possibility. The thing is that long tubes will give you that real snappy throttle response. Long tubes are really good at developing low-end power. They're just not going to do you much good with a stock cam up top. The shorties will actually carry power in many cases, in most cases, very well up top, in some cases better than the long tubes. You're just going to suffer a little bit potentially down low, and of course with transitions and things like that, where the long tube is just better at that. But that's what long tubes do. You're promoting scavenging, and you're doing really your most scavenging when you have the most time to do the scavenging, which is at the lower RPM range. So, yeah, I can definitely make a case for both. As far as just the cost involved can be a little bit much, if you know what I mean, when I'm talking about those long tubes. But the whole is greater than the sum of the parts with these Hemis, and I can tell you that if you're on an NA platform, long tubes are going to do you some good. So I'd say go for it, especially with the 5.7s, because you're dealing with a log manifold anyway. Only one way to go, that's up. Let's see. Oh, Sam's saying the 6.7's about the same, talking about the diesels. Kobe's saying, thanks for the info. Have a good night. You're awesome, man. Thank you, Kobe. Appreciate you, brother. Mike Horton saying, hi, Pro Charger or Whipple, positive displacement on a 6.1 built motor, building it for high horsepower. I like the low-end torque of a Whipple, but people telling me I'll just spin with that much power. Can a tune fix? Well, yes and no. You can dial it back with a root supercharger, but let me tell you something. If you're building something for high horsepower, it's going to spin whether you've got a centrifugal blower or a root-style supercharger. Now, let me just tell you this. Now, let me ask you this, rather. What are you building the car for? Is this a street brawler type thing? Or are you just building it to go out and have fun? You like whipping the throttle, like, light the tires up basically at will? That is your positive displacement supercharger's wheelhouse. Now, if you're going out and you want to drag race the thing, if you want to do some roll racing, you're going to have to move over to that centrifugal style supercharger. It's more efficient, and it's got a rising boost curve, which is going to drag your power further out. Now, that being said, you're going to need to have stanky tie bars. You need to make sure you have the valve spring pressure correct to deal with the higher RPMs, more aggressive cam profiles, and things like that. But tailor the blower. The point of this is to tailor that supercharger, tailor your boost to what you're going to be doing with the vehicle. Both have their place, but just know this. The Roots supercharger will give a more rich driving experience. It will feel like the engine is half again larger than what it is. If it's a 6.1 liter, it's going to run like a 9 liter naturally aspirated engine. Whereas the centrifugal supercharger is going to run like a really high-strung 6.1 liters. It's going to want to drag that power further, actually from your point of view, further and further to the right on that dyno chart. So that's great for dragging gears out long distance if you're doing, some high-speed stuff. But again, if it's just for playing around, just for having fun, just for making noise, man, it is tough to beat a positive displacement supercharger. That's why you see that so many of them OE. That's why there's one sitting right over my right shoulder as opposed to a centrifugal. Let me put you like this. If this setup right here was done with a little bit different intake manifold, something along the lines of like if they made one, an MSD intake or like a FAST intake for an LS, think of it like that. If this car were set up with an intake like that, so shorter runner, a little bit bigger runner with a centrifugal supercharger, at the same boost level, this engine would make another 70, 80 horsepower easily, like on accident easily. But it would just be lackluster down low, and then here's the thing, it will gradually ramp up to this power level. I should do it from your point of view. It doesn't go like this, like a turbo or nitrous, but turbos have that rising boost. You can really, it's where you feel that these, if it were centrifugal supercharger, the horsepower curve just goes up real linearly. And that's good. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's just you never really get a chance to feel it the way that you can with a positive displacement supercharger, if that makes any sense. So A is saying, thank you for the answer. You bet. Sam Grable saying, I can't wait to see a TRX on a drag pack. No kidding. Mike Horn saying 118 top speed is kind of disappointing on the 702 horsepower truck. That is tire limited. It's electronically limited due to the speed rating on the tires. That truck, believe me, will go much faster with a different rating on the tires. Cody's asking, how do you feel about the ATI harmonic balancer and lighter pulley? They're fine. The ATI balancer, you got to remember, if you're talking about for these things, I mean, that's the 10% lower that a lot of guys go with. For the NA stuff, that's good. I mean, you pick up a little bit. But again, this is a game now where, you're picking up little bits here. And, how many little bits does it take to make a lot? Don't know. But I can tell you that the more little bits you have, the closer you get. So, it's all, just biting at those gains at that point. But it's a decent game nonetheless. I know that Sean E had them on his car, and I think he said it picked up 6 or 8 horsepower. Let's see. Sam's asking, I wonder when Chrysler will develop or co-develop a 10 or more gear trans. No need to. The HP8 speed, right where it needs to be. The only downside to the HP8 is 5th gear. 5th gear is the Achilles heel of that transmission, only in that it is not as aggressive as the 10R90 or whatever it is, the 10-speed automatic. Sorry, just failed me for a minute. For Ford and GM, that 5th gear is what really makes the difference going through the traps in the quarter mile. But if you got enough torque, that problem doesn't really exist. So. Let's see. Nick's saying it's way too expensive of a truck. They need something the average guy can afford. Seriously, like a stripped down 6.4 truck with some scat pack features would be cool. Brother, I have been singing that tune for a long time. Hopefully they listen to it at some point. Queeks is asking, if you're in a position to have another car in addition to your Hellcat, would you get a GT350 or the new Mach 1? The new Mach 1 all day, every day, twice on Sunday, and I would try to sneak another one in on Monday morning just because I could. I like the Mach 1 a lot. GT350 is cool, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, man. I really like the idea of the Mach 1. I like the idea of having that power with, again, that automatic, or that power with the GT350's transmission. Torquier than the GT350, a little bit more usable power. I would still throw a 410 gear in that thing. Go out and have a freaking ball with that car. I don't think you could permanently get rid of any grin that would be on my face after playing with one of those. Antoine saying, I really enjoy my E-Force on my Ram. Smiles all day long. I recommend it to anybody. See, that's another endorsement for that. I mean, I'm in love with that blower, so absolutely. Sam saying, not for cars and the HD trucks. Let's see. Cody saying, prepping my Durango 4.7 for a supercharger, so trying to build it NA and have it fun before I put a supercharger on it. That's the way to do it. Start on it when it's NA, and you can have some fun with it from there. So, let's see. Did I forget anybody? Hang on. I want to make sure I haven't forgotten anybody. So anyway, getting back to it, kind of circling back around to the monologue here, guys. The problem for me long term is I want to see Dodge, FCA, and all of the family basically driving more towards their own identity, and I get that Ram is doing that with the TRX. Don't get it twisted, guys. I'm not hating on the truck. I just don't like the direction that it takes the brand. I mean, I get it. It's kind of cool with the off-roady thing, but they had an opportunity to make a badass truck with the Rebel. No 6.4 for the Rebel, but yet they're going to make the TRX with the Hellcat engine? Not even the red-eye engine? And you already know my thoughts on that. I mean, it wouldn't cost any more to make the red-eye than it does the Hellcat. But here's the other thing. The idea of growing within the brand is something that comes up a lot with FCA and Dodge. Grow within the brand. In fact, wasn't that like an overriding theme for the Durango's release? So with the truck, there's no way to grow within the brand. There's only one V8 option for the truck. So growing within that brand only means trim levels. Now we have the TRX, which is stratospherically priced. I don't want that. I don't need that. That's outside of my price range. But what I would like is something in the middle, 392 powered, something that has got more oomph to it, something that can compete in the marketplace against the Coyote powered F-150s, which again, haul ass, by the way, especially when they're, sauced up properly. These are the things that I'm looking for. And unfortunately, it's just not out there. You say, oh, well, the 5.7 will walk all over a 5-liter Ford. That's not necessarily true, and maybe it will for the first 5 or 6 seconds of the race, and then after that, it's over with. Coyote will start walking on some of these 5.7s. So it's not a foregone conclusion based on power alone. And, oh yeah, this is freaking Ram. They should have had a 6.4, like the first thing to be released should have been the 6.4. Or the first thing that 6.4 should have been in should have been a Ram. So to me, it's just mind-numbingly backwards the way that Ram, in this case, Dodge, FCA, however you want to call it, how they're approaching and driving the brand from this point of view. And I just, like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't see the vision, apparently, that somebody is seeing, and that's, I guess, why I'm so confused by all of this. Let's see, what did I... Mike's checking in saying, thanks for asking. Really good info. Wanting a Whipple for the 6.1, but could a Hellcat supercharger do the same trick? Even with adapter kit, still cheaper than a Whipple. Yeah, kinda. But here's the thing. I wouldn't necessarily go that route. I would go with the known performance, known quantities, known kits, basically, of the Whipple. And I wouldn't want to pick up a used Hellcat blower just because it would end up being cheaper. It's just not where the smart money's spent. You're stepping over dollars to collect dimes at that point, especially when you think about the back end of that transaction if it goes wrong. I like the Whipple idea. I would say save up a little bit more. The extra coin, you will know where it's been spent if you get that Whipple, for sure. Hang on a second. Antoine, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. This is great info, man. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you very much for that. Thank you so much. I appreciate the contribution, man. I really do. Sam's shaking and saying the 6-speed in the HD trucks suck in comparison to the 10-speed in the Ford and Chevy, but I prefer the i6 power. Well, yeah, that's a different story altogether. Cody's saying, I feel like the only thing that can handle the F-150 5.0 is the Jeep Trackhawk. So much in the same videos how fast they are, moved for how heavy they are. Let me tell you something about Trackhawks. On the street, I'm not talking about at the drag strip. I'm talking about on the street. That thing is nutty fast. They hook. And trust me, if you're running drag radials all the way around the way that a lot of the hot-rodded Trackhawk owners do, they will flat out embarrass your ass on public roads. I mean, it is, with as heavy as they are, they got traction, they hook, they got all 4 tires clawing away at that pavement. They will absolutely lay down power in a way that is foreign to anybody with any real amount of power. Anybody with a 392 powered car and up that's not on a tire, don't go messing with a stock Trackhawk, much less a modified. Any of you Hellcat guys decide, I got this thing in the bag. What you run at the drag strip ain't what you run on the street. And that Trackhawk, I don't care if it's a freaking half-second slower than your Hellcat is on the drag strip, and that's in the 8th mile too if you want to get cocky. That thing will straight up chew you up and spit you out on the street, and especially if you're on asphalt. Good luck hooking up with that. Sam's asking, I wonder what will sell better, the Durango, the Durango Hellcat, or the TRX? Man, I gotta tell you, that is a fun what if question. I like it. I am gonna say that the TRX may have an interesting advantage over the Durango in that it's much wider appeal with its off-road capability. It's kind of picking viewers from both ends, so to speak. It's kind of reeling in 2 rods at the same time. You've got off-road enthusiasts that are going to look at that and go, what the shit? And then you've got just normal hot rod pickup guys are going to see that and go, damn, that looks like a lot of fun too. And yeah, that thing on a different wheel and tire setup is going to be pretty nutty to say the least. But still, I mean, you kind of get the idea of where they're able to pull their support for. The Durango, it's also only in for 1 year, and I don't know if people are just gonna. I don't know if they're gonna get real nutty over that. I mean, you start hearing, oh, it's only available for 1 year, and I guess it's kind of rare if you want to look at it that way, but I don't know. That's just a weird thing, man. It's like this fling that they had with the Durango, and I mean, how they got past bean counters and not a hot rod pickup, like street brawler type pickup truck, is still beyond me. Cody's checking and saying, thanks for the info, B. Created a list of mods to make my Durango definite sleeper. Very nice, man. At the shop, we had quite a few. We had Well, I say quite a few. I think we had one, two, three. I had four, at least four Whipple Durangos that I remember. Fun trucks too, man. Torquey, fun. Just they don't suck, man. I mean, there's nothing bad about them. Plus, they're roomy. One of the key takeaways for me with the Whipple Durangos, and this is going back a couple of years, but one of the key takeaways when I would do the data log runs, you guys got to remember, when I'm doing data logs, again, I'm wearing a white lab coat practically. I don't really pay attention. Like I notice when cars run good, mainly because the data looks good. The car feels happy. You know, it's one of the things that one of the ways that I described that the Demon. When I first started, I got shackled with the Demon for a number of weeks. One of the things that I noticed about the Demon was that it drove like the happiest Hellcat I had ever driven in my life. And in fact, I emulated a lot of things about the build on my car around how that Demon ran. And that's one of the reasons why I like this car so much. It's just such a happy example of a Hellcat. And so anyway, where I'm going with this is that the Whipple Durangos were very much along the same lines, like a very happy version of a car that you just wanted to be behind the wheel of and drive. Not to mention the fact you could take your friends with you in a real comfortable environment. The things are just nice to drive, man. So, yeah, not to belay the point, but yeah, I think you're gonna like it a lot. King's Eye in checking in saying, I really like the TRX, but I'm just pissed that it's so damn expensive. Me and you, brother. I love Mopar, but they seem to get real arrogant with their pricing. You know, and the fact that they're coming at you from every freaking side with a Hellcat powered something or another. I mean, to be honest with you guys, I'm frankly surprised the Hellcat is still a thing, number one. Number two, why they haven't taken the Hellcat any farther is beyond me. And really, oh, and the other thing, you know, the Red Eye to me seemed like a logical successor to the Hellcat, except for the fact that that blower is not as efficient, and I just simply like Hellcats more. Getting to this, when they were talking about the super stock, one of the things that kind of, I don't know how to put this. So the idea behind Revlon, aka the Mistress, the idea behind Mistress was I wanted to kind of demonize a Hellcat, but my idea was to super stock it. Basically, use a bunch of factory parts, 309 gear, rear seat delete, Mopar rear seat delete, stock pulleys, just make it better than stock. See what I could get out of a stock Hellcat with a little bit. Believe me when I tell you, the engine tune is non-existent. Everything in that engine tune is just to support the transmission tune. You know, any fueling and just a twinge of timing, again, is just to flatten out a timing curve in the tune. They actually dump torque on the, anyway, I'll spare you the tuning lesson for later. But the idea was to just basically kind of super stock-ish the Hellcat. So when they were talking about the super stock, I went, wait a minute. That was kind of the rolling gag with my car. It's like, I've got a super stock Dodge, not really, but I mean, it's like, it's just a bunch of stock parts. Or bin parts, I should say. But when the super stock was released, it was basically Demon version 0.75. I mean, they kind of slid backwards a little bit, while still kind of sliding forwards. I don't know. To me, that kind of took the wind out of my sails, because I was really hoping for super stock to mean naturally aspirated. That's why I never said I'm making it like a super stock. I never said that because I knew it would be a false statement. The original super stock Dodge 1964 Polara, or if you want to go even further back than that, 63, 62 Savoys, things like that, with the 413s and then the 426 Max Wedge, and then anyway. Those were all naturally aspirated cars, lightweight naturally aspirated cars. Lightweight naturally aspirated cars running in a class called super stock. That is why for me it's so difficult to see Demon version 0.75 and not like lose my mind over the naming of that thing, because again, Dodge is trying to drag up tradition. Well, the super stock Dodge would have been a perfect platform for a 426 all aluminum, lightweight, narrow body, rear seat delete, LX platform, something, Challenger. And it just, I don't know, it's this failure to understand what the image is that you're portraying on the part of Mopar. That is, I guess, the biggest issue on the marketing side. When you don't know where you came from and you're just regurgitating sounds like blah, 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 Hemi, blah, blah, supercharger, blah, blah, race gas, blah, blah, quarter mile. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like somebody that has picked up on a couple of meaningful buzzwords but has no ability to put them into the real context that they're from. That is the part of it that drives me absolutely bananas. And so I hear super stock and I'm thinking, ooh, could it be? Nope. So anyway, back to it. Coda saying, and I feel the Jeep Trackhawk is one of the few cars Mopar got right. Yeah, a lot of folks feel that way. Sam Crable saying 3-row Hellcat, that's the Durango. Sam saying, I also wonder about the new Grand Wagoneer. What would be cool there is if they did, and I've been saying this for a while too, if you're going to put Grand Wagoneer name on anything anymore, at least give it the love and give it some pub from back in the day when the Grand Wagoneer really meant something. And bring back the honcho too. Cody's saying, I wish Whipple made a kit for the 4.7. I would have bought that almost immediately. Yeah, a lot of folks just didn't really plan on hot rodding the 4.7. Good engine though, by the way. Good old school Mercedes engine. Can't really go wrong with it. Some will say they're better than the Hemi. H237 say, when it comes to superchargers, doesn't it depend on the engine? Low RPM, high torque, positive displacement, high RPM engines might be better with the centrifugal because they're more efficient. Yes and no. A positive displacement supercharger is just going to follow the natural torque curve of the engine, whereas a centrifugal is going to push everything out further with a lower starting point. So it really doesn't matter if you have enough capacity with the positive displacement supercharger to manage whatever flow you're going to see on the big end of that engine's normal operating RPM range, then you'll be just fine. And as long as the discharge temperature isn't too high at that point either, which again is a thing when you're talking about positive displacement supercharging, or any supercharging for that matter. They all need some type of intercooling, but positive displacement even more so because so much more heat is generated in that process. So, you know, the extra power indeed does come at a cost there, but really it's not the engine or the cam or anything like that. It's just, how do you want to make power? Do you want to make power kind of the same way that the stock engine or the unboosted engine makes power and just elevate that whole power curve up? Then you use a positive displacement supercharger. If you want to take that power and move it out, then you use a centrifugal. And that's just basically the way that it works. With centrifugals having a higher efficiency range, or rather a high RPM efficiency than the positive displacement. Obviously, positive displacement is making more power down low. Let's see. Aperture is asking, I had a question you answered a few months back, but I want to make double sure. I have a 2012 Charger Pursuit with the 5.7. You mentioned I could use 0.20 in place of the 5.20. I live in Colorado. I may be wrong. Yeah, technically you can use 0.20. Typically the zero rating, if you're living up that high, really there's not a difference between 5W and 20 in that winter viscosity. And really, so when you're looking at the low number, the zero number is a number that engine is going to see once it starts to warm up. You're going to have the same viscosity as that zero number as the engine starts to warm up, and as the polymers start to link up and do different things. It's going to start to act like a 20 weight later on. Once the engine gets warm, it acts like a 20 weight oil does at that temperature. The main thing you don't want to do is go backwards. You don't want to put a 10W30 if you're going to see a lot of really low temperatures. That would be very bad, because now you've got a oil with the viscosity index, so to speak, of a 10 weight at that lower temperature, and a viscosity of a 10 weight at the lower temperature, which can be relatively high by comparison to a 5 weight or a 0 weight. So what most guys will say is, yes, you can run a 0W and then insert whatever number you want in terms of your manufacturer's recommendation, or whatever the generally accepted rule of thumb is for your vehicle, as far as your warm temperature viscosity benchmark, so to speak. So again, the way that it works is, at low temperatures, a 5 weight is going to be significantly more viscous than I'm going to use significant here just to illustrate a point, but the 5 weight is more viscous than the 0 weight. The 5 weight is going to flow like that 0 weight at a higher temperature than the tested temperature of that oil. So again, the engine will see that viscosity at some point during the warming up process, as opposed to starting out with a higher winter viscosity of, say, or rating, I should say. People call them weights. There really isn't a weight to it. I don't know where that even came from. But if you start out with it, if you expand this a little bit farther, you like a 20W50, like more of a racing style oil. Think of how warm your engine is to see a 20 weight viscosity. It's at its normal engine operating temperature of, say, 185 degrees. That's where it's going to see that temperature, that viscosity. If your engine sees that viscosity at a much colder level, that means it's going to be much tougher to flow, right? It's going to be very slow to flow, especially in cold environments. Whereas the opposite is true. You get that like 5W or 0W, it will see that viscosity farther sooner in its warm-up procedure. So that's kind of my mentality with that. I run 040 in practically everything. The C25, my GMC, I'll run 5W40 Rotella in that one. But then again, I'm here in Texas, so I don't have much to worry about. And I'm still not worried about, and I'll flip that on its ear. I also don't worry about running a 10W30 or a 10W40 down here for the exact same reasons. I mean, the engine is going to see that 0 weight, I say weight, even I'm guilty of it, that 0 viscosity index as that engine warms up. So just start out with it's easier to flow product when it's cold, and it's going to get to everything more quickly as though it were already warmed up, if that makes any sense to you. Cody's saying, so a centrifugal is like a turbo. Not only is it like a turbo, it was called turbo superchargers. Where they got their start, where centrifugals really, their claim to fame was in aviation. And what you did is you geared the supercharger, the turbo supercharging was also, there was turbo supercharging and then a turbo supercharger, like the centrifugal supercharger, just the supercharger in this case. But you would gear the supercharger for a specific altitude. In other words, you would go for a specific manifold pressure at, let's say, 20,000 feet. Any lower than that, and you would have to throttle the engine to keep it from overboosting at lower altitudes. Anything above your target manifold pressure altitude, if you firewall the throttle, in other words, you're wide open throttle and you're climbing in altitude, you will steadily lose manifold pressure, which is the same as just going up in altitude, going with a higher DA. A true turbo, on the other hand, running off the exhaust gases, will keep making boost until you run out of compressor capacity, which makes things kind of nice. Anyway, that's the difference. But yes, it is very much like half of a turbocharger. It's just that it is being run by the engine itself, and you're targeting a certain manifold pressure at a specific RPM, and that's where that comes from. Let's see, King's Eye saying Trackhawks are still expensive used. They hold their value well. Yeah, they do. As a matter of, and Racer X checking. Everybody say what's up to Racer X. What's up, homie? Yeah, Trackhawks, not only do they hold their value really well, but a lot of folks just don't get rid of them, man. I mean, it is tough to talk folks out of Trackhawks. The funny thing is that if you catch somebody with a Hellcat and they're of a certain age, and they've got the means to do so, if anybody ever throws them the keys to a Trackhawk, it's funny how quickly one of those Trackhawks show up in their garage. Just saying. They're that good. They really are that good. Cody's saying, so you can switch between 020 and 520. Want to use Royal Purple on the Corolla? You can. Most guys do. As a matter of fact, it's not uncommon to see, 040, 540 mixed weights on Hellcats. Some of the more, what do you call it, like the boutique oil suppliers get like 7W41 or some, anyway. You can, yeah, you'll find that. So yeah, 020 and 520, there's guys that switch back and forth between those fairly interchangeably. Always follow your vehicle recommendations. You know the drill here. But the reality is that, yeah, I mean, there's not a markable difference between the two. In fact, now that you've been mentioning it, I don't recall ever seeing a 520, at least not down here. We do have 020, which is what's in the Jeep. It's what's in most modern cars, really. The truck takes it. Doesn't it? Hang on, I've got my deal over here. Yeah, 040 for the Chally. Jeep's 520. Yeah, you're right. And the truck's 520. So yeah, 020 or 520. I mean, like I say, I don't even notice. If it has 20 as the last number, I'll throw it in either one of them. Mike's asking, not sure if you're familiar with pricing on these, but I would greatly appreciate your opinion on this. I was offered $2,500 for a 58,000 mile Paramount Performance 1,000 horsepower Nag 1 trans, and $3,500 for a D1 SE Stage 2 Pro Charger 6.1 setup. Just paid Pro Charger $2,000 to rebuild it. Think I could get more? Yeah, I'll say you could get a lot more than that. The Paramount trans for $2,500, you're probably at least $500 to $700 shy on that. $3,500 for the D1 SE Stage 2. I mean, dude, you're probably $1,000 off on that, and that's giving the guy a deal, especially considering it was just rebuilt. So, yeah, check your resales on those. But yeah, I would say, yeah, you're in good shape. Mike Horn saying, think I can get more? Yep. Cody's saying 520 is on the Royal Purple website. Yeah, it is. I mean, again, that's just me. I've always just looked at it and went 020, but actually it's 520. Weird. I mean, it's weird to me because I just don't really, I don't pay attention to it. But if it says 020, I'll put it in there and they run great. The funny thing is that, when it comes to oils and things like that, yeah, I say things like that. When it comes to oil, it's not really a voodoo thing. So manufacturers are trying to hit a target viscosity at a specific temperature. And what they're doing is they're looking for how much or how little stiction can they get by with? In other words, just that's the drag of the actual viscous fluid that's in there. What is the lowest viscosity that they can get away with given the flow of the oil pump, and still maintain a strong oil film at that bearing? The higher the horsepower that you have, the higher the RPM that you have, the more that you're going to need that, and the higher the loads that you're dealing with, the more you're going to need a more robust oil film there. So you can think of a 40 weight, the modern 40 weights, having that kind of sweet spot between lubricity and the actual ability to absorb the power that these things are making. Interesting though, even back in the day, and we're talking in the 30s here, 1930s, anyway, 1930s, 1920s, but really into the 30s and part of the early 40s, if you look up the owner's manuals of some of the cars back then, you'll see where they'll even say for hot weather, use a straight 20 weight oil. For colder weather conditions, use a 20 weight oil. For hot weather conditions, use a 30 or a 40 weight oil. And that's kind of how people did their oil changes back then. They would change oil once a year. They would get a tune-up twice a year. Or I should say they would change oil twice a year, get a tune-up twice a year. And part of the maintenance on the vehicle was, you would run the lighter weight oil, the lighter viscosity oil. They didn't have multi-viscosity oils yet. And so in the wintertime, it was a very real thing for oil to come out of suspension, where the waxes would actually come out of suspension as the oil basically froze in the block. And if it didn't have the ability to be a lower viscosity, when you couldn't start the vehicle. It just, it just wouldn't do it. In fact, that was a bit of a problem for folks back in the, 50s and 60s, really before the multi-viscosity oil started to become easy to get your hands on. If you didn't change your oil and you got hit with a real hard cold snap and you're running 40 weight and your GTO, you got to start the thing and it goes wrong. It just won't fire up, it won't start. That's the reason why. It's where all these cold start issues would come into play. All the friction and all the problems that came with cold start was from winter starting. So, but anyway, guys, getting back to the TRX and the street trucks and all that other kind of stuff. I know I've kind of bounced around a little bit, but I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from with this. Now, I wouldn't have this kind of passion for Mopar, and I wouldn't have this type of a seemingly, rather manic and reaction to this TRX. If I wasn't so passionate about Mopar and knowing the history of the brand and knowing where the truck really could have gone with the legacy of Mopar, so to speak, it just kind of bums me out, because I'll tell you something, when they're rolling trucks across that stage, this is what I meant to say also too earlier. When they were rolling trucks across the stage, think about it for a minute. What trucks did they roll across? They rolled across the little red truck, also the Warlock. They didn't run the Warlock, same thing for the Warlock. They ran across the Viper truck. And then, here comes the TRX. Has nothing to do with either one of those trucks. Those are two-wheel drive street trucks. Street brawler type creatures, right? What they didn't run across the stage, and it was glaringly, conspicuously missing, was the old school power wagons. The kings of the off-road, the brutes of the off-road world. Granted, it's a little bit different mentality going, that truck but just walk with me on this. Dodge has such a rich military background, from World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and all of that. Dodge has such a great military background, and they didn't bring any of that into the fray. They brought street trucks across the stage that had nothing to do with four-wheel drive whatsoever. Frankly, they left out some that should have had an honorable mention, by the way, which I thought was disrespectful to the heritage. Once again, Ram, Dodge, FCA. But they didn't drag across the four-wheel drive trucks that gave Dodge that just ultra tough, bomb-proof reputation that they had. So, again, for me, I'm looking at this and I'm going, guys, I mean, you're showing me one thing, and then it's like showing me a bunch of shades of blue and then showing me a shade of orange. It's like, yeah, you got me worked up over here. And, I mean, we know it's coming. But it just could have been done so much better. It could have been done in a way that had a bit more of a, America to it. Not that freaking song. Mr. Sandman, bring me out America. Yeah, that's what I wanted to see. And could have drug across a freaking something, just a power wagon with chicks hanging out the back of it with a couple of kegs and titties and freaking whipped cream fights and something, man. America this thing up. Son, it's a truck, for crying out loud. It's driving me nuts. C10 Mob, what's up, man? Let's see, saying, hi, I understand the 520 oil on the Hemi was based on the MDS lifter requirements. The 6.4 uses Hellcat lifters and calls for the 0W40. Actually, the 6.4 uses MDS lifters as well. All of the automatics have 4 cylinders that are using MDS lifters on those exhaust valves. So, and there's no difference between those and the ones that come in the trucks, and that's 5W20. So, again, it's really not, always following the manufacturer's recommendations, but, realistically, 0.20, 5.20, at that level, there's not really that big of a difference down there as far as what the viscosity is going to be. It's mainly based on temperature more than anything else, and, that low number, if you're in really low environments, that's like 32 degrees, basically, is 0 degrees Celsius is what it's measured at. That's the flow rating that you're looking at. So the 520 at 32 degrees is going to have the same rough actual viscosity at probably 47 degrees, maybe 50 degrees. So you're really not talking about a big temperature variance to go from 5W to 0W, if that makes any sense. You're basically starting out at 32 with the same viscosity that you might be starting out with at, say, 50 or 55 degrees, if that makes any sense. But no, the MDS lifters were for sure used on the 392s. Let's see. But thank you for the contribution, brother. I appreciate it. And yeah, I mean, it's like I say, stick with 520 if you can get it. If, in fact, let's do this. If this winter, if you notice with a full battery, if you've got issues turning that thing over with 520, chances are there's other issues afoot, because again, 520, 5-weight is pretty watery. You got to remember that you're coming into this from a world where most people were running 1030 for forever. Like that was the gold standard was 10W30 in everything, in all conditions. So, let's see. Cody's saying, if they made a single cab Ram 1500 with a supercharged 392 with a lowering kit and radials, that would be crazy. Look, if they made that truck with the 6.2, that would be the craziest. I mean, that would be amazing. Or just a 392 in general. Throw the 6.4 in the truck. I know it's not that hard. It's the easiest thing in the world you could throw that 6.4 into. White Knuckle saying, we all know you speak Mopar, B. I like it. Good night, brother. Have a good one. Good night, White Knuckle, man. Have a good one. And again, C10, I appreciate that. Speaking of which, so the C25 is hopefully going to be heading over to Dr. Diff's shop here in the next, I'm going to say probably the next couple of weeks. So trans will be rebuilt, new leaf springs will be installed, the 4-barrel will be put on at that time because it's at its shop right now, and play around with some fuel line routing, trying to keep it away from heat sources, trying to mitigate as much of the heat soak as possible with that vapor lock that's driving me batty. And then go from there. So that's going to be a lot of fun too. I'm really excited about that. Can't wait to get that truck back. It's been kind of a long time coming. Not long really, but we'll be working on that. In the meantime, what showed up to the house, what showed up to the shop today is the new Fluidine radiator for the Fox body. This is the old plaque. They used to rivet these onto the top of the radiators. They don't do that anymore. They use stickers. So I just drilled the rivets out, and now it's hanging out with me over here. That radiator was probably, I'd say, somewhere around 15 years old. So looking forward to getting that old girl on the street. In fact, I'm going to be getting the radiator installed, and then be heading over, hang out with Adam over at Pikes. He's going to help me get the seat situation fixed up. And then from there, I'm going to start cutting paint, because that car needs a paint correction like you would never believe. But yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of maintenance work on that thing. Tad Mason checking in saying, I have a 19 Dakota 392 and want to do things to make it handle the turns better. I already upgraded my tires. What would you recommend? Adjustable shocks, front and rear, for sure are going to help you out. Springs are another thing. Not real familiar with spring brands for that truck. You can always go Eibach for that. But bring the center of gravity down a little bit, put you an adjustable shock on the truck. I think that's going to go about as far as you may want to go, depending on what you want to do in terms of ride quality. Now, obviously, sway bars are going to be a thing. If you want, go ahead and install a Watts link. If anybody makes one for that truck, that would be a great place to start. Love me some Watts links in terms of locating and keeping that rear end from moving around too much. But then again, that truck actually, wait, hold on. Sorry. I read Dakota. I thought you had a 392 in a Dakota. Rewind. Okay, sorry, it's getting late. 19 Daytona 392. One thing's make it handle better. Okay, so same thing. Springs and beefier sway bar, but get the front cross member support and get the rear cross member support. That'll keep it from flexing. Makes the car feel a bit more stable as well. And that's really all you need to do. You'll be in good shape with that, and go from there. But check out Eibach for that, though. I always liked Eibach stuff. I'm kind of in an old school mood anyway. Jebediah's checking in saying, who here remembers the Carl Jr. Tex-Mex ad? Best spot ever. Funny thing about Carl's Jr. So when I was living in NorCal, this is no shit, guys. I used to help get guys Fox. That plate. Northern California is swarming with a bunch of old, cool ass cars, and I mean, there's an old ass man that drove a Boss 429 up and down 280 to work or something. I don't know what he was doing. Real talk, real Boss 429, old ass guy, owned it since he was new, I'm guessing. The car had never been washed, I'm telling you, in its entire life. And you just see it cruising up and down the highway like a daily driver. It's crazy. Anyway, lots of Fox body stuff, lots of SN95 pushrod stuff up there. What I would do is I would get those cars ready for inspection. A lot of guys would, hot rod the cars, or the cars really wouldn't pass inspection. They had stuff going on. I had kind of anyway, I would get those cars ready for inspection, and part of my payment, along with the deposit, was number 12 from Carl's Jr., which was, at that time, it was a jalapeno burger with either an unsweet iced tea or a Oreo shake. So anyway, that was, literally will work for food, dude. I was putting literal food on my table working on those cars. It was a lot of fun. Hilton Mode saying, what are some good hooking tires for the street? Rebel stock tires, 275, 70, 18. Damn, good hooking tire for the street? Check out the any of the Nitto SUV tires would probably work well for that. Yeah, Ted's coming in saying, I have a Daytona, not a Dakota. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. Just totally misread it. Saying, already have the supports front and rear for Mopar. I had them installed on the car before it left the dealership. Nice. Cody saying, sucks that Carl's Jr. doesn't sell fish and chips anymore. Well, I tell you what, man, sucks that Carl's Jr. isn't around anymore. We had a lot of them shut down here, so that sucks. The good thing, though, is that Fuddruckers stepped the game up quite a bit. They're actually pretty damn legit burger coming out of Fuddruckers these days. But if you are in on burgers, man, I got to tell you something. You think I've lost my mind when I tell you this. First of all, you can't crack some burger down here in BYT. You just can't. But national chain, y'all know what's up, man. Denny's. Dude, sunny side up burger, whatever that is, get you a sunny side up fried egg, throw some bacon on that bad boy. Dude, I mean, hangover buster, whatever it's called, that burger is legit son of a, listen. But yeah, Denny's got some good ass burgers too. That's what I mean, my burger game's strong. King's Eye saying, I'm looking to buy a Charger. Don't know if I should get a 392 wide body or a Hellcat wide body, which is $20,000 difference. I'm thinking, do I really need that power? So here's, I see where you're coming from with this. The style is the same. You honestly cannot tell what the difference is, but one versus another. Look, I like them both. I would never tell you that the 392 is less of a value than the Hellcat, in that it may be a better value than the Hellcat. But I will say this, there's two things that are going for the Hellcat. One, resale value. Hellcats just have a strong resale value, stronger resale value than the 392 does in terms of keeping percentages of their value. But here's the other, but the fact that it's a wide body is going to kick that up to a substantial margin where I don't think you're going to be losing much, even though the car's got a 392. But what you have to ask yourself is the Hellcat, because these are entertainment dollars, right? This is disposable income here. Is there $20,000 more value in the Hellcat than there is over the 392, given the performance of the vehicle? I'm not sure, but given what it would take to get a 392 car to the power, or at least to the performance level of a Hellcat, I would say that there is. Simply because it is incredibly difficult to get a 392 to run like even a stock Hellcat. In fact, go so far to say is you really can't. And believe me when I tell you, your starting point with a Hellcat is in a completely different mindset, much less time zone. I mean, you're just like, you don't even think about 392s when you're working with a Hellcat, right? So you've got to think of it in that respect. Now, if you're not into racing though, and you're more into the look, and you like the better balance, better feel of the 392, it is absolutely a better value per dollar. They handle better because they weigh less. This little section of aluminum right here, this whole bit of kit, plus everything that's down here for coolers and pumps and everything else, shit, man, that's like 130 something pounds extra weight. The other thing is, and this is just, please understand that I've driven every Hellcat that's out there. Bravo packages, from Bravo packages, hot rodded demons, red eyes, the whole bit, it doesn't matter. Nutty combinations on Hellcats too. As well as plenty of naturally aspirated cars. Where I'm going with is this. The 392 offers up one thing that the Hellcat doesn't, and that's if you're just putting around on the street and you just go into the throttle a little bit, that snappiness that the 392 has, the Hellcat doesn't have that. Off boost, the Hellcat is actually pretty soft, and you have to get the thing into boost, and then it really comes alive. But there's a transition there where there's not with the 392, and it's real snappy. And all I can tell you is a good way the only way I can really describe this is with, you've seen Racer X's video with his buddy Rob's the white with the blue stripe Charger. That car's got one of my cams, my personal intake, Fastman throttle body, all the stuff to go along with the cams, and long tube headers. That car has a drivability and a snappiness to it that is very difficult to put into words. And it retained all of that with that camshaft. I wouldn't say take your car to that level, but the thing is that when I was putting that cam together, one of the hardest things to do is to maintain the snappiness of that 392. That is the calling card of the 392, is its ability to just be snappy like that. That tip-in torque at any throttle input is so fun and so good with that 392 that I noticed the difference. You know, I even with the cam, I'm going, damn, this thing is different than the Hellcat down there. So I don't know. The 392, you can kind of have your cake and eat it too in a way, in that you get a snappy car that doesn't cost as much as one of these things do. So, man, I don't know. I like them both. You know, it's like ask me to pick between chocolate and vanilla ice cream. It's like, damn, dude, can I just like mash them together somehow? But you can't in this case. So, you know, here you are. You're just basically kind of working with, you know, it's the quintessential modern question. Do I go with a high compression, snappy, naturally aspirated engine, or do I go with a significantly more powerful, but yet still kind of a lumbering supercharged V8? You got to drive them both and make the decision, my man. It's a tough sell at 20 grand over, but if performance is the end of the conversation, you've got to cut the check for the 20 large and get the Hellcat. If it's not, and you want to enjoy a very well-balanced car, and I think you know where I'm leaning on this, go with the NA car. Go with the 392. Aperture's asking, what's your take on underglow on the Charger Challenger? Too ricey or all right? I'll tell you what, it has its place, all right? I like it on a 6-cylinder car that is flossed out with all the outward livery, the appearance mods, the crooked hoods, the sound systems and all of that. I love that kind of stuff in 6-cylinder cars for I don't know what reason, but I have got this, not a crush or anything, but whenever I go to like in any of the Mopar events, whenever the crew rolls up with the hoods and the custom paint and all of that, I like that kind of stuff. And those are the ones that always have the underglow lights and all that. You know, I don't really see a problem with it, but I don't want it. I don't want it to be the only thing done to the car. I mean, it's got to be something among many other things that are going on with that vehicle to make that mod work for me. Without that, I mean, it doesn't really do much for me. But when I see it done in a cool way, you know, with crazy rims and a cool ass paint job, or you know, just other things that are done to the car, you know, where everything's kind of working in concert. I don't know, man. I kind of like that kind of stuff. I mean, it also goes back to me liking, you know, like lowrider type stuff. I mean, I'm kind of a fan of that stuff too. So, you know, for me, it's just a different flavor of the car culture. And when it's done, again, when it's done right, man, I like it. So let's see. Oh, Jebediah saying, hell yes, to work on those classics are a dream come true. Okay, check out my Instagram, Jebediah. You'll see how much I bled all over that freaking GMC of mine. I carved up this finger pretty good. In fact, still a little jacked up when you can see it. But anyway, I carved that one up pretty good working on that truck. And there's actually some blood splatter on it. Yeah, they're cool. Look, old cars are cool to work on when you're not replacing like brake systems because they failed due to age or neglect. These are failures that can lead to serious accidents and things like that. That's when you just go, God. So you've got to replace all of that in the process of making something sexy. You got to make it to where it's a functioning automobile, right? I mean, it can't just be garage art. And that's one of the problems with working on some of the older cars is just that, I mean, you're not starting out with the fun, sexy stuff. You're starting out with the stuff that you end up crawling out from underneath the thing. You can't really tell that you've done anything to the vehicle. You're covered in grease and blood and everything else. And that's just getting the thing to where you can drive it. You know, that's the part that separates, you know, somebody like me from somebody that just goes and buys something that's already been fixed up and worked on and it's, you know, pristine and pretty already. I don't do pristine and pretty already unless we're talking about the Mistress. Everything else is a work in progress. It will have my blood on it. Okay, look at the Instagram, look at the Camaro, me bleeding on it. Look at the truck, me bleeding all over it. I think there's one of the Jeep with me bleeding all over that thing because the radiator exploded and I had to put a new radiator in the freaking thing. Bled on this thing, although not in the total amount. Well, maybe over the course of some time, I have bled on this thing. Basically, now that I'm thinking about it, pretty much, oh, in the black car, the Fox body, I just about knocked myself unconscious working on that thing. So that's like at least a couple of points there. Bled all over that thing. So anyway, working on the old stuff's a lot of fun, but there's a lot of not sexy that comes with it. You know, it just comes with the territory. People talk about, what are you going to do with this? What are you going to do with that? I'm just going, I'm just hoping that the freaking brake lines I put on the thing last another 50 years because I never want to do that shit again. So anyway, the fun part, the sexy part is throwing power at it, but there's just so much other stuff you got to do to those cars. So anyway. Ken797, can't believe being from Texas, you don't love Whataburger. Yeah, I did love Whataburger until they sold out to some Chicago-born company. I mean, look, I had Whataburger today. I had 2 potato and egg taquitos, a little bit of picante sauce, and an unsweetened iced tea, extra lemon. That's what gets me going. But the thing is that, I mean, Whataburger's good, but I like Dairy Queen a little bit better. So, but yeah, Whataburger, I don't know, when they sold out, kind of bummed me out a little bit, but I'm more into the more local flavor. And in BYT here in Baytown, we've got Some Burger, old school hamburger shack, been around since they came up with a burger. So, but yeah, Whataburger's all right. But the Denny's burger, man, I don't know, man. See, you can't mess with Denny's. When it comes to the chain places, Denny's puts together a burger like no other. And it's hand-slapped patties, too. Them Denny's burgers literally going to give you a heart attack. Yeah, you don't want to make a lifestyle out of it, but every once in a while, it's all right. C10 Mom saying Daniel's Meat Market in Baytown stuffed chicken with boudin's really good. Hey, what's the name of the Star Donuts? Not Snowflake. It's Snowflake flaked out. Star Donuts on Alexander. Dude, spicy boudin, kolache, untouchable. Untouchable in terms of being awesome. One of those with a bag of donut holes and an OJ and a coffee, dude, I'm set until dinner time, man. But you got to parcel it out, man. You don't want to just attack it. First of all, they give it to you hotter than hell, so you got to let it kind of chill in the bag. That's what the donut holes are for. But when you get in the middle of that thing, you're going to take a bite, and then you're just going to want to shove it down your freaking talk hole. You can't do that. But yeah, good stuff, man, for sure. Jebediah saying you definitely earned your stripes, no doubt. Got the arm flakes, I like it. Tad Mason saying, "What's your Instagram?" It's BA Mason 721 is my Instagram. C10 Mom saying, "Did not know they sold out." Yeah, they did. But then again, I'm more into the local thing more than anything else. But yeah, they sold out. What was it, last year? Year before last? I forget the investment group that bought them, but yeah, they sold out. It's the way it goes. But let's see where we're at here. Oh man, guys, we are over 2 hours. Man, I want to thank everybody for hanging out with me. I've got to check out. I got to wake up in the AM earlies. So, guys, thank y'all very much. Appreciate y'all hanging out with me. I'm going to try to get you guys some video of me working on the Fox body this weekend, resurrecting the old girl. I'll also be, am I going to be working on the truck? Might be working on the truck also. Maybe even the Gen 3. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. But anyway, at any rate, God bless y'all. Thank y'all very much for hanging out with me tonight. Hope y'all have a fantastic weekend coming up. Anything cool or exciting pops up, I will certainly jump on this and let you know. But for tonight, that is a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.